Okay, good morning. We are looking at tile maps and palettes again. We've been having some weird issue this morning, and let's see if I can put it together this time. Okay, so here we are in our scene. We have our scene with our little squirrel, and I start the squirrel. Squirrel walks on a branch. In this case, the branch is just kind of a boring, just normal object placed into the scene, and I want to use tile maps to create something more interesting. So to kind of maximize the bang for the buck here. So the first thing I do, let's see, let me close this tab. You might want to have a, let's see, we'll go and we will look for some assets we're interested in working with. I've already loaded Sunnyland Woods, and the thing I'm interested in is this tile set here. So I've got two tile sets. One tile set sliced, the other one is tile set not sliced. So normally, if it hasn't been sliced, you're going to see it kind of like this here, where you have just a single image for the tile set. It hasn't been sliced yet. And chances are yours looks even kind of probably like this. Apply, and if we go to the sprite editor, you'll see, okay, there's just one big image, one big sprite here, which is not what we want. We want multiple sprites, and we want them to be on the same scale as our squirrel. Now the scale I've been using is about 16 pixels per unit, so I'll apply that, and I want multiple sprites in here. Now I want to say generate physics shapes so that it will cut out colliders and physics shapes based on the presence of pixels as opposed to background, and I'm also going to keep extrude edges down so it'll wind up making the edges sort of tight here. So say apply, and you've seen, let's see, it automatically graded them. So it actually did a really good job with this particular sprite sheet here. So if I looked in the sprite editor, I could see where my settings are. So I've already kind of created things here. Could have just said, you might have, if you didn't have a sprite sheet that was already nicely defined like that, you might have to say slice and grid by cell size is often how we do it here. And we'd say, well, by default it's saying 64 by 64. If I said slice there, it's going to try to make these really, really large slices, which isn't good. You'll see 16 by 16 slice. That's the right size. Okay, so these are kind of usable building blocks. So it even divides these up into parts, so I can kind of use them in all kinds of different ways. So let's go ahead and say slice apply. Now it's also automatically generating the physics shapes that I need for these as well, so that when things are kind of diagonal and whatnot here, hopefully it's going to do the right thing. So we'll see that in the use. Let's say apply, and okay, so let's start using or figure out how to get a tile set now into our image here. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say window 2D tile palette. Okay, let's open up the tile palette, and we're going to put it right here next to our scene, so that's handy for this. And I'm going to say new palette, and I'm going to make this my tree palette. Okay. Now, whenever you create a new palette, of course, it's going to ask, where do you want to put the palette? So we're going to go to Assets, and I'm going to create a folder called Palettes. And I'm also going to make a subfolder, and we're going to call that Tree. And this is just going to help me organize things a little bit better. Okay. So now we have the tree palette with no sprites on it yet, no textures, no tiles. So I'm going to grab that tile set I just created and bring it over in here and put it in my tile palette. And it's going to ask once again, where do you want to put the assets that it's creating? And I'm going to say in that same directory, assets, palettes, tree. Select that folder. And it's going to go through its import process. And in a second, we will see, hopefully, our new palette. Okay, so now we can start painting with these tiles. Okay, we have no active tile map yet, though, so we're going to go to the scene, and let's create a 2D object, and we will create a tile map. And then for the tile map, it will create a grid, and it will create a tile map. Now, hopefully, if all goes well, yep, okay, it worked this time. I don't know, last time it did something weird. Now I can paint. Here you see I can select, I can move, paint, fill, yeah, paint a filled box with the active brush, pick, erase, and flood fill over in here. So I'm just going to use the paint, and I'm going to create a section here. We'll make a nice big section like that. And, you know, let's move. This is always what happens now. I'm going to move this squirrel up here and the branch kind of up here. And let's select the tile map, and I'll start working on a tree. So let's see, we'll have the tree being up here. I have two sections. No, that's kind of ugly. So like that, grab that next section down, put that there. That looks a lot better. And we'll use this next section. It gives us a couple of different sections to kind of design things with. And we'll put that as the next one down here. And then maybe there's a knot hole down there. So you can see I'm kind of painting that tree. And now I'm going to paint a branch in. So we'll put the branch, there. It works well with that one. There's the branch. And there we go. Kind of a gnarly, dirty, it looks very brown and dirty-ish here to me. Kind of old, crazy tree. And so on. Let's see. Maybe I could do this. Maybe this section here, that would look better. Happy little tree. It's not so happy. All right. And I will go ahead and I'll erase that. Whoops, that was too much. I'll just select a single block and erase that. Whoops, erase that. Okay, so I've got the beginnings of a tree here. Kind of a weird, quick, dirty tree. And let's see, put that one, I don't know, finish off the bottom of the tree a little bit, something like that. Okay, so now if I press play, I have my squirrel and he jumps off here, hopefully. Let's see, well, let's get rid of this. So we'll turn this branch, we'll move it, and we'll fall. And you'll see the squirrel now fall right past the tree because the tree has no collider on it or anything like that. So what I want to do is I want to create a tile map collider for this tree. So I go to the tile map and I say add component, and I will look for tile map collider 2D. It will automatically attach it. And now if I put it, make sure I put it on the ground layer so that it knows that the squirrel should interact with that. As the squirrel falls, it'll hit the tree, and now he can do his thing. And he interacts with the tree. Now, one thing, I started to change some things. This is what gets me. We go to the squirrel. I want to make the squirrel controller a little bit simpler to deal with so that he will do sort of the right thing here. My velocity. Pay no attention. Okay, there's my velocity. Set that equal. There we go. Hopefully set our squirrel back to doing the right thing. Save that. Okay. Whoops. Let's go back to our game. And let's see now. Squirrel lands. And you'll see that the squirrel climbed up the slope here. he needs a certain amount of speed to kind of overcome that, because we're using those physics shapes to create not just blocks that he can't overcome, but nice areas here. Now we can hit the tree here if we wanted. Now suppose we wanted this background here so that the branches, somehow the squirrel could walk past the body of the tree here. How would we do that? All right. Let's use a second tile map. Okay, so I'm going to create another tile map, 2D object tile map. And the first one is the normal tree, and the second one really has nothing on it yet. So we'll call this, this one we're going to call walkable. And the second one is going to be background. Okay. And what I'm going to do is now I'm going to show, okay, show me the tile map. Okay, we'll just leave that. And I'm going to erase this section right there. Okay. And I will even do this. I will create a little bit more of a branch here, and maybe a little section like that. And I'll do something weird. I'll grab this branch, and I'm going to just move it right like that. Okay, so now in my game, I can walk across here and walk straight through that opening and up this branch here. All right, so how do I get that part of the tree back again? So let's do this. Let's go to the background grid, okay? And we're going to take this section here and paint it in to the background grid. And we'll put that all the way up like that. And we'll even go, let's see, we'll go to the walkable one and erase everything in the walkable one from there up. All right, so this stuff is now not walkable. So if I say, okay, there's not walkable, and here's everything not background. So now my squirrel can kind of walk through there, and you'll see it did kind of this weird blinky thing in there. And that's because everybody's sort of on the same layer. So let's change one thing about this background layer to make it, what, a -1? Is that, so that it will be deeper in the layer there. Okay, so now the squirrel will be in front of it, and so on. We can wander around. And so on. All right, so there we have it. We are using two layers, two tile maps, one which is the walkable kind of foreground, and the other one which is the background. And the background we do not collide with because it has no TileMap Collider 2D on it. I could put a TileMap Collider 2D on it and change the layer and manage the collisions like I normally do, but for now, we'll just have the one which is the ground layer so that the squirrel can interact with that one, and a background one without a collider, which is just background imagery. Okay, so hopefully that helped. That's a brief introduction to tile maps.